Hey, it's Korey from Mahalo.com. You're about to see some screen tests of people who applied to be hosts for our education channel. This is your chance to comment and tell us who you'd like to see become our new host. If you live in the LA area and think you could do a better job, we encourage you to please submit a response video and tell us why you could be the next great host of Mahalo.com. We really appreciate your feedback.
Hi, what's up? My name is Arielle Brachfeld, and I have a bit of a quirky background. My main interests in terms of history are ancient civilizations, ancient Western civilizations. I've worked with high schoolers. I've come up with various lesson plans in terms of incorporating geography and current events and things like that, in terms of exciting history lessons. But my favorite group to work with is honestly middle schoolers, just because they are so cynical. Hey, my name is Arielle Brachfeld. I'm with Mahalo.com, and I'm here to talk to you about history. Now, what's the point about learning anything about history if you're not able to relate it to the present? And with that in mind, I would like to talk to you about infrastructure. What I would like to specifically bring up is Roman infrastructure. Now, the Great Roman Empire, it had many causes for the downfall, including a series of just horrible leaders. But primarily, what gave the death blow was the crumbling infrastructure. When considering how integral the infrastructure was to maintaining the empire, I think we should look at three things. It was necessary for education, because again, it was a vast network that allowed the passing of ideas. It was desperately necessary for economic reasons, including trade of not only goods but food, as well as money. I mean, that's really what all governments are held together by, right? Money. And finally, militarily. If you couldn't get troops to the outskirts where, Germanic people were attacking or having some sort of uprising, you were at a loss. You would lose that chunk of territory until whatever time you could get troops down there. So the downfall for the Roman Empire, on top of the leaders and everything else, was the impending doom of the crumbling infrastructure. Now, I know you're thinking, what in the world does this have to do with me? In my life here in this world, I can email people and talk to them instantaneously on my cell phone. I can be across the world in, a matter of hours. And you're right. In this globalized world that we live in, the hardcore infrastructure isn't necessarily as important a note, unless it comes to food. Because without substantial amounts of food, the size of our cities will dwindle. Without a network to get that food there, i.e. infrastructure, you're looking at population decreasing. You're looking at medicine not being able to get there in case of a plague outbreak or some type of epidemic. So I guess the main thing that I would like to point out in terms of what we can learn from the Romans in today's exercise is, well, we need to maintain our infrastructure. Because, like I said, after all, if you aren't able to learn from the past, what use is it? So on that very cheery note, this is Arielle Brachfeld signing off from Mahalo.com. Please feel free to click on our links and check out our sponsors, and overall have a grand old time on the site. Have a good one, okay?
My name is Korey Simeone, and my background in history is I studied actually German history in college, but I am an avid history buff for many different eras and different subjects, anything from samurai culture to ancient Egyptian artwork. I've taught professionally over 10 years. Mostly I've taught instruments at schools of music in and around Austin, Texas, but I've also tutored people privately that amount of time as well. In not just history, but also German language. Hi, I'm Korey here at Mahalo.com. Today we're going to be talking about the most interesting thing in history that gets everybody riled up, and that is how to effectively kill people, especially your enemies. Now we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of ancient Rome. How did Rome conquer so many people and so much territory? So imagine that you're a Gaulish tribesman in about 55 BC. You're hanging out, you're farming, you're hunting, you're doing your thing. You hear about these people called the Romans coming to take over your territory. So you go to their encampment. You say you get there at noon. You're going to attack them at noon. Too late. They've already built a fort. Every night, the Roman legions built a fort. They would march from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. and build a fort. They had engineers, they had carpenters, they had loggers, they had anything stonemasons that you would need to build a fort every single day. So I'm a Gaulish tribesman. I get there at noon. I have to wait around for them to come attack us. They march out in the morning in formation. We, the Gaulish tribes people, have been drinking all night, getting into a frenzy, getting enough energy and bravado to go attack these people who are kind of scary. So we finally get the nerve to go attack them. And we come upon their shield wall. The Romans have huge shields all together and these little pointy swords. And all they do is we run up on them and we can't go any further, and then they stick us with their swords. Hey, my name's Gaius. I'm a legionnaire, and all I do is stick people with my sword. Stick you. Oh, you're dead. Stick another one. Oh, you're dead. Stick you. Oh, you're dead. When I'm tired, my centurion rings a whistle, blows a whistle. I go back in line. This line is six legionnaires deep, right? And I take a rest. I have something to eat. I have a drink of water. This is in direct contrast to the Gauls, who are trying to beat the Romans in a frenzy, and they're also probably naked. They have a sword and a shield, and they're naked because that was what was considered brave, to go against your enemy in the buff. So you can see the disparity between these two cultures and how the Romans basically conquered over 2 million square miles and ruled over 50 million people over 2,000 years ago. This has been an episode of How to Kill Your Enemy here at Mahalo.com. Please subscribe. My name is Korey, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, my name is Rachlis. I am 23 years old. I went to New York University, where I majored in drama and philosophy and minored in U.S. history. So I worked for a company called Reprise Theater, and what we did was we had a contract with the LAUSD, with the Los Angeles Unified School District, that I would go out to different middle schools and teach kids there who didn't really get a chance to experience drama programs, a chance to see what it's like to play theater games, to learn about theater history. Hi guys, I'm Michael Rachlis from Mahalo, and I'm going to teach you about a very seminal piece of American history called the Supreme Court case of Marbury versus Madison. Okay, so Marbury versus Madison. What does that mean? So Marbury was a guy that was appointed by the second president of the United States, John Adams, to the Justice of Peace for the District of Columbia. All that just means is he was appointed by the president, as all federal judges are, to a federal judge position. And he was appointed at the very last second. Basically, it was called the midnight appointments. He basically wrote up these appointments, gave them over to his Secretary of State and said, appoint these guys. But he did the last minute, and he didn't get and John Marshall, who received the appointments, didn't get to deliver all of the appointments out to all the justices. One of the justices who did not receive his appointment was a guy named Marbury. He was expecting to get appointed to a federal judge position, and when he didn't get it, he thought, oh, well, the Thomas Jefferson is going to become president, and his Secretary of State, James Madison, is going to appoint me to a federal judgeship because John Adams wanted him to. So when it got around to Thomas Jefferson's presidency, he said, okay, where's my judgeship? And Thomas Jefferson said, well, I don't like your politics. I'm not going to appoint you to a judgeship. And Marbury was understandably angry. He petitioned the current Secretary of State, James Madison, with a writ of mandamus, which just basically said, because of this thing called the Judiciary Act of 1789, I have the authority to make you give me this judgeship. So here we are, we have John Marbury and James Madison sitting, arguing their cases before the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, in front of Chief Justice John Marshall. And Marbury is saying, the former president, President John Adams, promised me this judgeship. I deserve it. And James Madison basically says, that was that president, this is a new presidency, we don't have to honor that. John Marshall was the deciding opinion on the court case, and basically he ruled in favor of James Madison. In doing that, John Marshall created the power of judicial review, which basically means that whereas the legislative branch of government, Congress, can make the laws, and the executive branch of government, like the president, enforces the laws, executes the laws, and has a few other powers, the judicial branch of government's job is to interpret the laws when there's a dispute. And with that, the Judiciary Act of 1789 was struck down, Marbury was not made a judge, James Madison won the case, and from then on, the Supreme Court had cemented its rightful place as a worthy branch of government. So that is the landmark Supreme Court case, Marbury versus Madison, and it still has a major impact today on the way that the Supreme Court operates. So thanks guys, thanks for listening to me. I know there's a lot to take in. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you guys later on Mahalo.